Christmas is supposed to be warm, bright, and safe. Tonight, Christmas isn't so cheerful. Once the lights go out and the house grows quiet, some stories wake up. Stories meant to remind us that even the most magical night of the year has its shadows. So dim the lights, grab a blanket, and listen closely. Because these are scary Christmas stories, and they're not meant to help you sleep. Even the happiest season has its dark side. This happened before Christmas 2019, when I was 26, and it sticks with me to this day. I've thought about sharing this many times, but I was never sure if it was scary enough. My then boyfriend, now husband, and I decided to meet for dinner at a Christmas market here in Switzerland. He would pick up our dog from the daycare and I would get there after work. Some things that are good to know. At this point, we've had our dog for about a year. He's called Bean. He's a medium-sized dog, and before he came to Switzerland, he was a street dog in Italy. He was about 2.5 years old at the time, and he loves and still loves all the attention he can get. Also, Christmas markets are incredibly busy here, especially after work. People will meet there with friends to eat dinner and drink mulled wine. When we got to this Christmas market, we realized that it was way too busy to walk through with the dog, and I sent my boyfriend off to get my favorite street food. I waited at the edge of the market with Bean. He likes to greet everyone who looks at him, and by that point I had gotten used to talking with strangers because my dog wanted me to meet them. So I wasn't too concerned at first when a dude came up to me. Full transparency, I don't remember word for word what he said. I'm not even sure what language this happened in. I do remember that Bean happily greeted this guy, trying to stand up against him and lick his hands. The guy asked for his name and what breed he is, and I told him that Bean is a Sphinxer mix. That's when the situation started to turn. All of a sudden, he switched. There's no better word to explain it. He grabbed Bean's leash and said, "I'll go now," and just tried to walk off with the dog. Thankfully, I had a firm grip on his leash. I was incredibly confused and flustered and just stammered that he can't take my dog. He got increasingly more angry with every second that I didn't let go of the leash. I loudly told him to leave me alone, and Bean started to bark at the man. I've never seen Bean this angry and scared at the same time, and thankfully the man let go of the leash and slid into the crowd. I was left standing there, a dumbfounded mess, with a mess of a dog. He was barking and shaking, so I knelt down to calm him, holding him and talking. My boyfriend was still somewhere in the crowd, waiting for our food. After a while, a woman walked up to me and told me not to put my heel to the floor, as she's just seen someone put a firecracker there. Someone had put them under the heel of my shoe so it'd explode when I put my heel down to get up. Now, I don't know what's worse. Was it the same guy that tried to steal Bean, or was it someone else who saw a distressed dog and thought, "Wow, let's scare that dog a bit more"? I think the worst thing for me was that apart from that woman who warned me, no one helped me when I was harassed by a weird guy, even though I loudly told him to go away. There was other people standing very close, just watching. Bean was the only one who scared the guy off in the end. Thankfully, the events of that evening had no lasting impact on Bean. He still loves to greet strangers. I still remember it, and I don't think I will ever forget. Nearly a year ago now, on Christmas, I was at my dad's with some of my siblings. We celebrated Christmas, and then after dinner my dad headed off to be with his girlfriend in her apartment. Left in the house were my 16-year-old uncle, my 16-year-old brother, me who was 15, and the youngest who was a toddler. I woke up early the next morning, the day after Christmas, and sat on the floor beside an outlet on my tablet. Everyone else was still sleeping. Then I heard banging on the back door. I thought it was my dad coming back, but the banging got louder and went on for too long. For lack of a better term, I disassociated, didn't know what to do, and couldn't move until I heard the back door break. I had been paranoid about home invasion due to our area in the city before, but I had no idea what to do and just stood there in shock. I put down my tablet and picked up a nearby flashlight. I think to throw at whoever broke in. When the back door had given out, I heard him go quickly through the downstairs, stomp up the stairs, and then he was right outside of the door of the room I was in. The man opened the door, turned left, and then turned right, where he saw me sitting on the floor, besides the outlet less than 3 feet away from him. He was taller than my dad, and wore completely black and a ski mask. He held a big and rusty crowbar that had a blue handle. He was wide and looked on the older side. I took a small breath and screamed louder than I ever have, and held it for at least 20 seconds. Once I screamed, he screamed a bit too, and then ran downstairs and out of the house. I went to the top of the staircase after he was already down them and out the hallway, and I yelled, "Please leave," as loud as I had screamed less than a second before. Looking back, asking a house invader to leave is useless, as he was already leaving. And because he broke in, but I wasn't thinking my best. My screaming woke up my uncle and my older brother. I wasn't wearing pants, so I put my pants on quicker than I ever have while telling my older brother what just happened, as he was half awake and confused. I ran downstairs and my uncle had just come from his room in the basement. I quickly told him someone had broken in and left after I screamed. He already had a knife and told me to grab one too. I did, and after making sure the robber had left the house and checking quickly on the toddler, who was somehow still sleeping. My uncle told me to guard the back door and stab anyone who comes through while he checked the area outside the neighborhood, to see if the robber was gone or where he went. I held the knife and stood behind the broken back door, knowing if someone came back I couldn't really do anything, as I have never fought and I'm a child holding a kitchen knife. So I held the knife in hopes they wouldn't come back, and they didn't. My uncle came back and said they must have had a driver, since no way could he get away that fast on foot. None of us had phones, so my older brother called my dad over Instagram on a tablet to tell him what happened. He explained what happened, and when Dad was 10 minutes away via car, he hung up. While we all sat and waited for my dad, we talked and realized this was likely all planned. The invader came in when there was no car in the driveway, and after entering, he ran directly upstairs, ignoring the new Christmas presents, an alcohol collection, and even 2 gaming consoles smack dab in the middle of the living room that he ran through. He went directly for my dad's room, where me and my older brother were. My dad collects valuable shoes and has some expensive watches he keeps in his closet, and only someone friends with my dad who'd been in the house before could have done it, and knew the right place to go. When my dad came back, he asked me over and over about how the intruder looked, and I told him again and again, while he and my uncle tried to think of which friend it could have been. I was the only one who saw the guy, and had been less than 3 feet away from him. I was in direct physical danger from a stranger I've never met. We didn't call the cops, as the police in our area and city are known for being more than unhelpful. As Christmas is getting closer again, I'm worried about being back there around the same time the person broke in. I've had a harder time sleeping, and I've been more paranoid. I understand I was and am very lucky that I wasn't hurt and all we got was a broken back door, but I still honestly hate the person who broke in. I hope whoever he is, nobody likes him. This happened 20 years ago, just after Christmas. I had turned 6 a month prior. My mom went out one day and left my then 16-year-old cousin to look after me and my 2 older siblings. My cousin decided to take us out to the city, which was 10 minutes from where we lived. We took the bus, walked around the city in incredibly unsafe neighborhoods with basically another child responsible for us, and after a few hours got tired and decided to go home. The city had a central area for the buses. Not a bus station, but like a huge, perfectly square field with some plants and flowers and bushes. Lining all four sides along the street were a couple bus stops and benches, so basically you could catch several different buses from the area going all around the city. Since it was just after Christmas, the bushes along the field were still covered in Christmas lights. As we waited for the bus, I began to wander away as I admired the lights, my cousin none the wiser. At some point, I heard a man say hello. I looked up from the bush and he was smiling down at me. Thinking back on once I got older, it was clear he was homeless and was probably on drugs. He had longish brown hair that was wet, teeth that were black along the gums, and his clothes were incredibly dirty and torn, and he had several jackets on. None of this really registered in my 6-year-old brain, so I just smiled back up and said hi. He asked if I liked looking at the lights, and I said yes, they're pretty. He said, and I'll never forget this exact sentence, "If you like Christmas lights, I've got some really cool lights at my house you'll love. Wanna come see them?" I eagerly said yes, so he reached down his hand to me and I took it. We started to walk away and were headed to the corner of the field where a few big buildings were. He said his apartment was just a couple blocks away, so we were headed around the corner of the building, when my arm jerked backwards and I turned to see my sister pulling me away from him. He didn't say a single word, just took off instantly running. It took a few years for me to fully grasp the danger I was in. My sister and brother talked about what happened a lot and how scary it was. When I finally got a little older, I appreciated how terrifying that all was and how close I was to having my life change or end forever. If I had rounded that corner with him, they never would have been able to find me in time because they wouldn't even know where to start looking before we disappeared. It's something we still bring up sometimes to this day.